Hi there, and welcome to the Hub of Junior Golf Podcast. I'm Ryan Burr, joined as always by the founder of the Junior Golf Hub, Roger Nick. And Roger, spring is here for some, summer is here for others, and of course, many in the north are still can see the end. Though the March is here, and with March will come some spring and some opportunities to play a couple 70-degree days in New England, even in the end of February. So I think everyone for sure is excited that spring golf is here or just around the corner. An exciting time for golf as well. How about Anthony Kim? What do you think of that, Raj?
I tell you what, I was watching his swing that was posted online the other day, and he looks pretty good. But you know what? We know golf is hard, and one of those games are his game hasn't been tested for 12 years in tournament competition, so it's going to be interesting. But I love seeing it. Listen, I was a big fan of Anthony Kim when he was out there on tour. His big personality. Had the pleasure to spend a lot of time with him at one point. So really excited to see what's going to happen with that. Obviously, it's buzz in the world of golf right now with Live, getting some a new title sponsor for their Friday, so getting more coverage, things like that. So and adding players like that to their roster, I think it's only going to help.
Yeah, no doubt, and certainly with that, we welcome our guest today, the 17th year as the head coach of the UConn Huskies, Coach Dave Pezzino. Thanks as always, Coach, for joining us. We really appreciate your time with Roger. Just talking about some of that warm weather you've had up there in New England, and getting out on the grass has had to be an added bonus when you get that kind of treat in February.
It's added time for sure. But again, we've been traveling, we've been on the road, so it's been a productive last couple of weeks for us for sure.
A couple of questions for
Hey, Ryan, hang on. He's saying it's been productive week. You guys have won. You guys have done a lot of stuff. So don't play it down too much there, Dave.
I'm not playing it down. That's part of the process. We got some
All
stuff
right.
to work. Just part of the goals, baby. We got work to do. Work to do.
Get off to a good start. Let's put it that way. You
Thank
guys are off to a great start.
I appreciate that.
All right, come on.
What is the goal, Coach? It traditionally coming from the Big East, certainly New England golf. Is the NCAA tournament a goal that you talk to your guys about before the year? Is it trying to win the Big East? Is it just trying to get the best ranking that any UConn team has ever had? What is kind of like goals that you set?
So I'll give you a broad brush of what we've set, not specifics, but we've got a couple different goals that really fall into, okay, this is where we want to go, but how do we get there? And we've got to build the process underneath all of that to accomplish what we want to accomplish. I think when you want to be successful at something, you need small victories every day. And I think if you put the idea of winning conference and going to regionals, winning regionals, and going to the NCAA, there's just so many steps that to get there that I think sometimes you forget where your feet are. And it's important that we reset our goals every tournament. But, winning X amount of tournaments, being in contention in certain tournaments, those type of things. And we have individual goals too, but most importantly, I try to keep it, what's in front of you right now. And we talk about it when we get to the golf course. It's like we'll go work off the whole location sheet with weather and decide what holes, with certain areas that we can go after and some whole locations to avoid and those type of things. But other than that, I think that's, you can't talk about winning without, working with what you have in front of you. And each week, I think those goals change. We play a pretty demanding schedule. We opened up the season this year at Tennessee, and, I think most of that tournament field flew in private. And one of the kids who played in that event is now on the Live Tour. So if you want to see what big boy or big girl golf looks like, those are the type of things that we do here at UConn, and those goals change all the time. I mean, I think goal setting is very important, but I think everyday goal setting is a little bit more important than We want to win conference. Who doesn't want to win conference? We want to go to the NCAAs. Who doesn't want to go to the NCAAs? So yes, those are pillars that we want to get to. And Ryan, don't forget, I walked by 11 national championship banners on the women's side, 5 on the men's side. I walk by them every day. This is not hyperbole. And the standard is that. So, it's the last time a team from New England won a national championship was the early 1900s. And, my focus is on someday to change that. And, to get there, we need to learn how to be better course managers, more discipline on the golf course. And I think those things will be productive parts of what we want to do to get to that, to get to see what San Diego looks like in late May.
Hey, well, Coach, I mean, that's really good stuff. I love the what's important now mantra. I know that's a lot of stuff that we talk about in our academy.
I got it from you guys.
And I think it's just so important for all of us really to think about that, what's important now. Just like this podcast, this is important now. So, Coach, you're in the New England area. We have lots of questions. I know Ryan's going to go through. We've got lots of questions here from parents now on the podcast. We've got getting some great questions. But one of the questions I'll ask, because of what you just talked about, which is recruiting, and for your program to be successful, you're going to have to continue to recruit the best athletes, best golfers out there. Your program has skyrocketed overnight success in 17 years, right?
I don't know about that, but thank you.
Yeah. So
awful kind.
So we have a question from parents about, I'm a junior in high school. Is it too late to get recruited? Give us a little scenario. Obviously, you've been at many different levels of coaching, women's side, the men's side, top D1 program, as you alluded to before. What can they expect as a junior golfer and a junior in high school, saying, is it too late? What do they need to do?
Well, I mean, I think obviously going out and playing good golf obviously helps and moves that time frame a lot quicker. But I think it's important that a junior in high school should go, when they're going to play in tournaments, I think they should go and look at schools, do an unofficial visit with the coach or without the coach, and see where they're at. I think it's important that you love the school you're at, love the campus. It has to have the degree you want. I think that's really important. Sometimes young people will fall in love with an institution and they'll be like, well, I want to major in real estate, but I'll just major in business and do my thing. And don't do that. It's a 4-year window, but it goes by like a sprint. And I think it's important that the young people listen to their parents and reach out about asking questions like, will I be successful on that campus? Like, do I need a small campus? Can I survive on a big campus? Those are the type of things that when you take away the golf part of it, what does your day-to-day student athlete experience look like? And that's important. But I think what would really do the student athlete the junior year a lot of good is connecting with the coach, setting up a Zoom, or getting on their calendar to do an official or an unofficial visit and seeing what campus is like. And I get it. I know, like, there's a shot clock in the back of every parent's head, and it starts June 15th, and there's a basketball official standing behind them doing a 10 count. Like, they've got to be committed. I saw the other day, like, who's going to be the first 2025 kid committed?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Well, hopefully that young man or woman is going to make the decision of a lifetime, which is a big decision. I try to tell our young man, I want you to ask 1,000 questions. I want to make sure that this is your forever school. And that, when you make this decision, I want it to be part of your maturity process, because your first big solo decision should be who you're going to marry. But this one could be more family based, but ask a bunch of questions, especially with the way the internet is now. We only had the ping guide when I was in college. So, young people can, so, some of these Instagram accounts are so great that you can really see what these programs are all about. And that's important, and I think one good thing was, I could bet that most juniors have a connection to all the programs in and around New England, some degree of separation, and just reach out to those players on the team and ask questions. I think it's important to find out, what I'm like and what it's like to play at UConn and how we travel and, what kind of academic support we have. And, those things are important, because the whole recruiting process, yes, it's very sexy and, oh, I'm being recruited. Yeah. I mean, like if you could play golf and you're in New England, people like New England kids. The boys and girls in New England, they're tough. They're hardy. They can handle bad weather. They're great academically. So kids in New England they're gonna have options, which is a great thing. And I'm really proud of that part of it, that we see kids stay here and go to great programs, and we see them go off and play at great programs too. So but I think all the parents need to pump the brakes and understand that this is a massive decision. It needs to be something this decision needs to be highly educated, and try to focus on what's important for your son or daughter. I've seen it all the time. Like, oh, my kid's on a full ride on the men's side. Just so everybody knows, on the men's side, those are wicked rare. Those are really, really rare. You got to be a heck of a golfer of your ball, because the men's side only has 4.5 scholarships and the women have 6. And the men's rosters are usually bigger in size.
Yeah.
I always tease that college golfers talk 68, shoot 78, and drive 88. Sometimes when you're in the recruiting process and you hear a kid or a parent say, yeah, I got a full ride, on the men's side, if that kid's name isn't Davis Chatfield, and I don't even know, but like that kid's on tour, or Scott Langley, and I can tell you he was heavily recruited. I just think that you just need to service your son or daughter, and all the rumor and innuendo and all the other stuff that's out there about the recruitment process doesn't exist. And I think it's important to understand that the money needs to be a little further down the list. I understand financially that it has to be pretty high, but would it be a good thing to get a pretty big scholarship and then to play for a psycho that travels bad, has a lot of money, won't develop that young man? Forget the golf side of it. Every kid that plays Division I can play at a high level. But my job, and I like to think that the men and women coaches that I call dear friends, this isn't about birdies and bogeys. It's more about, how do I make, Colin Spencer a better young man? And that's at the forefront of what we do here at UConn. And if you don't have that where you're going and you're looking, you can get 6 full rides and it won't matter at the end of the day.
Coach, let's dig down a little bit on the question that Roger took from Kevin, who wrote that question in. So June 15th, everyone knows that you brought up Caleb Surratt. Certainly, I'm guessing he signed on June 15th at Tennessee. I mean, you're talking about a guy that has been a top 4 or 5 player in his class since the rankings came out. So, if you're a top 5 player in the country, the world, in your class, June 15th might be realistic. If you're not, I'm curious about this. What is the latest you've ever offered someone a chance to play on your roster? And what I mean by latest is, has it been a senior? Has it been a senior that was in his second semester? Like, how late can that process go? As you talk about people hitting the panic button on June 16th of their sophomore year, how late can it go?
So we have a young man on our team who, I'm not going to give you his name, but I think he's going to be dynamic. He's unbelievable. And we found him in, February of his senior year.
Wow.
And the unique thing about him is the moment I spent 9 holes watching him play, because I was watching somebody else, I realized that young man would be an absolute dynamo in our program and our family. He works really hard. He's a multiple sport athlete, comes from a great family, looks you in the eye, shakes good firm handshake. there is no time frame, Ryan. I know that the parents are going to freak out and they're like, oh my gosh, all these kids are committing and I've got nothing. Well, welcome to the portal era, right? Like this thing's kind of crazy right now. It's the Wild West. But I think it's important that you do your homework, and if you're going to freak out on June 16th of your sophomore to junior year, then that student athlete and his parents or her parents need to be doing all the research before then. But I would say that do your homework, check out these programs, ask yourself the non-golf questions. Like, what does it look like? What's the campus look like on a weekend? Is everybody gone? Because back when we all went to college, there were suitcase campuses, right? Everybody went home, not so much anymore. But what does it look like? Do they have college game day showing up on Saturday for a Villanova basketball game? Probably not. Maybe not. Who knows? But those are things that matter to the young men that play for us. And what does practice look like? Is it qualifying and then coach just picks whoever he wants? Do they go out and play a 72-hole banger and you have a winner and well, coach doesn't like that kid because he was a walk-on, so I'm going to pick Roger and Ryan instead of Dave? That happens sometimes. So you've got to get all those questions answered before you say, okay, I'll take that 30% scholarship at a Power 5 school, or at that you don't think you can even play for. Roger and I have talked about this a lot. Don't go someplace because of what the brand is. Go someplace where you can go play and chase banners and championships. You got to learn how to compete. You got to learn how to sleep on a lead, how to chase down a lead. Those things will only help you get better. And I hear it all the time, like, oh, hey, I'm gonna take a spot at this school. Okay, cool, good luck, and I'll never see the kid again. Doesn't play a tournament at that school. For instance, the young man I'm thinking about never played a tournament at that school. Now he's on the club team.
Wow.
Great. And he's having a great time. So glad I dodged a bullet with that, because the most important thing is I just don't want a young man or young woman to sit, when I was a women's coach, I don't want to hear that they want to do well. I want to hear that they're passionate about winning championships. And that's the standard here at our place. And it's not easy to finish second, third, fourth, fifth, eighth in an event and come home and bring your luggage into Gamble, and you look up and Gino, Jim, Dan, they've got some fabric up there. But I get a little anxious when parents start freaking out about the timeline, because I think you have to find the right institutional fit, period. And that has to be the most important component. Sorry if that was a little long, Ron.
Yeah, that's all right, Dave. Thinking about that, the timeline, and I know we've got a few more questions, Ryan, I know we want to get to, but Dave, thinking about that timeline, I think it's just so conditioned for so many years, right? I mean, over junior golf, especially here recently, COVID, the scare of not having an opportunity, the scare of all the things that's going on. Obviously, listen, the transfer portal's been around for years. It just is taking a different life the way it is now since COVID, because of now NIL money, different things. So I'm sure for you guys as coaches, it's got to be difficult to recruit a young kid coming out of high school, which now, to your point a little bit, is it's even getting later, and it might be even a suggestion to say, hey, take a gap year to keep getting your game better, because there are so many kids jumping from school to school now with NIL money being unrestricted, which I saw the NCAA just waive, that wand recently, or get denied that wand. So that's something that's going to impact all of this, right? So having a parent having this timeline in their mind that if they don't get recruited or signed by their junior year or their sophomore year as a commit, and it's just not true anymore.
No, and if you think about it, we've had a nice little go with transfers here. We've been very blessed. Had a great group of transfers coming in, and I think what you're seeing now in the recruiting world in college golf is, do I want an 18-year-old untested freshman, or do I want a 20 or 21-year-old kid who's played and won at the Division II level, at a mid-major, which one do you want? You know,
What's your
and
answer, Coach?
I want the right institutional fit, Ryan. If I've got a young man who really wants to be here at the University of Connecticut, it's the roll of the dice that I take, that they would walk in my office 3 days after regionals and say, "Hey, I want to transfer to XYZ University." That's okay by me, but I'm going to do right by the guys that are on our roster and coach that young man up. But I think the biggest thing is what Roger said is it's okay. It's okay to take a gap year. It's okay to go and try to fight your way onto a lineup. You know, I think there's nothing more about a determined person with a chip on their shoulder. I don't want any part of that person, but you know, it is very challenging now, guys, because you see emails. If you were to open my email box right now, it's transfers, high school kid, JUCO kids that don't know anything about my program, that are just, you know, it's like the old, you know, massive, you know, email merge. And like, you have to want to play college golf at the Division I level if you want to play in New England. You know, we travel a lot in the spring. We miss a lot of school. We were off campus a lot. So it's important to understand that part of it. But yeah, I mean, you know, I started officiating high school basketball again as a hobby, and I've worked on having a more patient whistle. I think it'd be okay if you're in the recruiting process to have a little bit more patient whistle and listen and go see more, and you know, do those unofficial trip visits without the coaches. That's great. But see as much as you can.
Let's take this question from Evelyn, Coach and Roger. Hoping you guys can help a few novice parents that are entering into this golf world. Your podcast is an incredible roadmap. I have two daughters that are actively competing in high school golf. Their scores continue to drop. Should we enter some national competitions, or is it too premature? What is the best approach to enter competitive golf? They are in 9th and 10th grade. They have year-round swing coaches.
There you go, Coach.
All right, here we go. So here's what I think. I am a huge believer in the way Tiger Woods was developed as an elite winner. So Evelyn, thanks for your call and your question. Here's what I would do. Go have them compete in the local area. Have them become very accomplished at winning in the local area. Then branch out, playing some more regional stuff. Then go to the state. Then go within, you know, the broader part of the United States, and then start investing in some national junior tournaments. But you have to win, and I want to make this clear. You've got to be able to win and learn how to win at the step that they're at now, and then they can take their next step, because I think it's important. I really appreciate when our New England kids go out and they play events, and there's 40 kids they never heard of that are really great, and it challenges them. I think that makes you a better player. But to become an elite college player, you got to learn how to win. And high school golf is so great. I think it's important. I think it's essential when you think about being a part of a team, because those bus rides will be the memories of a lifetime. I still am great friends with all the guys on my high school team, and miss my high school coach very dearly, Odell Nasser. But I think it's important that you take steps and learn how to win and compete and continue to grow and grow and grow. Having a year-long swing instructor is great. I think you taper that attention to the swing off when you can get on grass. Roger, you can talk about that if you want, but I think it's important to go out and compete. But you got to take baby steps. And listen, Evelyn, the trajectory is not going to be like this, right? It's going to be highs and lows all over the place. They're going to shoot great scores, and they're going to have they're going to play great, and they're going to lose an event. They're going to play terrible and have a good finish. It's going to happen, right? I promise you. And on the guys' side, what you see about 14, 15, 16, and some 17-year-olds, and maybe 18 when they don't physiologically mature, they'll hit a growth spurt. Their golf will be horrific. They won't be able to break 75, and their clubs won't fit, and clothes won't fit. It'll be just the weirdest thing. Again, pump the brakes. And one of my favorite humans of all time, Jimmy Herval, went through that after he committed to us, and he was terrified. I told him, listen, you'll be fine. He's 6'5". I mean, he hits it 4 miles. I told him, don't worry about it. I'm not going anywhere. He's going to be fine. But just understand that it's not a direct shot from elite ninth and 10th graders to, Clemson women's golf, whatever it may be.
Yeah, well said, Coach. And I agree with you. It's that crawl, walk, run mentality. When where you
Sure.
are, what's important now.
Sure. Yep.
As far as development is concerned, I think that was if we didn't learn anything else from Michelle we learned that you better win where you are, or you may not get the win much at all. So, and no knock on her. I think she's been a great for the game, women's game for sure. But when where you are, develop the best possible way you possibly can in the physical, the mental skills. And one way to do that, Ryan, as we talk about all the time on the podcast, is going through finding a coach who can do a certified PDI or player development index or assessment. Find out where your skills are mentally, physically, and golf wise, and go from there. So, great question from Evelyn.
Yeah, I wrote this one down from our podcast last week, and this is a really interesting one. My son is a great player, has shot the course record 3 times of 62. He has won on the local and regional level. Every time he gets in an AJGA, he chokes and shoots 80. What should I do?
Well, have you assessed the mental skills?
Yeah.
I mean, I would just say, as much as I don't want to talk about mental skills or mental instability for a young player, the reality is that there's something getting in the way when you're, going from some events and shooting those kind of scores into those other events that may be more significant or created as more significant events. There's a disconnect, right? So we certainly talk about that all the time. Coach, I'm sure you see it. Your players are playing. It's how do you approach it? How are you approaching the moment? And I think, Coach, you alluded to this earlier again, which is you following in the process. And if they're putting this weight on the HAGA events that are just more than it should be, they're certainly not following a process somewhere if they're out there shooting 62s in other events and that's not transferring. Or maybe the golf course that they're shooting those numbers on isn't set up enough or closely enough to what the HAGA events are.
Coach, have you had a player that certainly came in with a lot of expectation from you based on what they had done at the junior level, and you saw it in practice every day, but for whatever reason, when they got on the plane and went to a tournament, it didn't translate?
So I think every program has that, but I think expectations are what drives college golf coaches to be equipment reps or gets them out of the business. I don't have any expectations. If you're on our team and I sign off on your NCAA roster position, I have total faith that you can go post a score and help pay my mortgage. But I hear what you're saying. I think it's important that I don't put those expectations on anybody. And again, it's, we look at, their stats and, where their finishes are and scoring average and their player development. And I look at it year to year and how I can help them get better. And, that 62 piece, that happens a lot. That young man or young woman is probably all over college golf, that they can absolutely golf their ball in qualifying. And when they get to a tournament, their expectations change. And I think that's what it is, right? Like what Roger's alluding to is that, you come down here to the Met Golf Association, you play some Met juniors, every junior. So like, all those kids, and then you go to an AJGA and there's 30 names you never heard of that can absolutely kick your tail in. And then that's when the expectations hinder, like he or she can shoot 62. But I think the thing that I would say, Roger, I like to do with our guys is we'll push them to the forward tees. I want to see how many birdies you can make and how comfortable you can feel. And like when you have more time, what does it feel like to be 8 under, like playing against people? What does it feel like to be 6 under? And I think that learning process is important. And sometimes, going back to what we talked about with Evelyn's kids, is that how many young men in like 12, 13, and 14-year-old are playing the back tees when they have no business being back there? they've never broke par in a tournament from the
Right.
forward tees that are age and strength. We wouldn't put an elite. Rose Zhang's not going to play 7,000 yards, right?
Right. That's right.
And I think it's important that the person that shoots 62 goes and learns how to get under par, stay under par, and look at every event as, well, I got to go post a score. And the conversation, I'd love to be in the car with that parent hearing, hey, this is an AJGA. There's a lot of stars available this week. You've got to go play great. And listen, I'm a youth sports parent. I don't talk about any expectations with my son. I have 2 college boys now and a 14-year-old son that plays soccer. And I'm just like, hey, where are we going for ice cream afterward? Like he's got to be able to have some fun. And, shooting 62 at home and then 80 on the road, that's not a fun conversation. That parent needs to be more cheerleader than coach. And I think that would be a big deal, big difference.
Let me ask you, I'm a little confused by your answers, both of you. So I just want to clarify, because this could go either way. I initially thought you were saying that the kids put too much expectation on himself, and the pressure of that expectation to shoot 62 is what is causing the 80. But then, Coach, I said, well, maybe you're talking about he shows up at a big event and his expectation goes from birdieing every hole to, wow, I'm at an event now. I just hope I can make 18 pars. Were you saying that there's too much pressure on himself, or that he actually or she changes their expectation because they have placed this tournament to mean more?
So that's exactly where I'm going with this. So here's what I would say is, if you watch the parents of the juniors and a kid misses a shot and the parent gives a big sigh, or they kind of cross their arms, or their body language is pretty crappy, the kids can feel it, they can see it, and then that's extra pressure on them. And I think that the expectation is a double-edged sword, parents and player, right? Like the kid's like, well, I shot 62 against, low Larry, Moe, and Curly back home, my buddies, but I come out here and Nathan Hahn just dropped a 66 on me like he was, changing his shoes. And I think that the thing that gets lost here is that golf is so hard mentally that I think you have to find a mental skills assessment, not just for the golf stuff. Like, think about it. If you're not assessing with the golf swing, you're just guessing. And the mental part too, and I think, Ryan, you're right. I think it's the player and I would like to add that I think it's the external expectations. Because here's the other thing that the three of us probably didn't have to deal with growing up. I didn't start junior golf till later, but every kid's social media is a social media highlight. Like, this kid shot 65. Okay. Well, great. It was picked, clean, and placed, and it was 69. It was 6,000 yards. Good job. Great playing. But nobody knows those things. It's a highlight reel. And when when you can't post that stuff, there's that added pressure. When you see your friends posting stuff, there's that added pressure.
Interesting.
So I think the expectations are way off base for the young man and for the parents. Sorry, it was so long-winded, but I hope I made some sense.
But yeah, I'm just going to add one little thing in there, and you said it right there at the end too, which is, I think the parents' pressure there. Ryan, I know we've talked about this many times before, but that pressure there, the parents go, well, we're paying extra to go to the AJ, traveling. There is an expectation that's set without any words saying, I expect you to do better at this event, because it's just the other steps that go along with it in creating that significance of that event. So there are some things here for the parents need to be wary of. It's just another event that your kid wants to play in. Great. Let's sign up and let's go do it. If it's not, then okay, talk about it. Talk about why that's different. And if it is a money thing for a lot of parents, and a lot of kids feel that, right? Kids know when their parents struggle with the financial situations, and go ahead and talk about it. There are a lot of things out there that you can use. There's resources. We have the USA Junior Golf Federation that are, we personally, support a lot of kids, playing events. Ryan, I know you and Noda have the same thing in place in your foundation, and making sure kids can play. The AJGA has, their ACE grant. I mean, so there's lots of ways. So there's resources for those parents that are out there listening to that. to take that pressure off. Don't put the pressure on the kid to say it's more than it is. It's just another event that they want to play in, or maybe they've earned to play in. Hopefully they've earned to play it in, and not based on rankings and that kind of thing. So,
Coach, thank you as always. Certainly, you're a great barometer for not only for us to base these questions on, but for what you're doing at UConn. I know Roger joked at the beginning, but I mean, you are building an absolute program that is really starting to be taken notice from outside New England. So congratulations on what you're doing. Clearly, you and your guys are on a mission, and I mean, long way to go here. We're just getting into March, but best of luck the next few months. We know you're going to be playing long into the spring here.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, but I can't thank you enough for having me to be a part of this. But if I could just say how significant what Noda's doing for junior golf, for American junior athletes, I mean, this is pretty substantial. Connor Good on our team had the blessing of being able to earn a spot to go down and play in that championship. And he told me it was the most significantly well-run event. It was first class all the way. So, kudos to all the folks on your team and to Noda Begay and, college champion and, all that. But he's doing what's right in our game. So thank you for me being a part of all this. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach. Best of luck.
You bet.
Catch up with you,
Coach.
See you guys. Thanks.
All right, see you, Dave. Thanks so much.
Yep, bye-bye.
All right,
Anytime.
bye.
See you.
And Roger, as always, some really, really good advice. I wanted to say this question because this is probably better for you and me than Coach, but we have one here that really does get into the financial side of it, that this family just cannot afford to play tournament golf because, as we know, they are extremely expensive. You mentioned a few, but I'll even take it further. I believe that every single regional and national program has financial support. And from what I understand, it is the unwillingness of the parents to ask for it that ultimately this money actually, Roger, and I'm talking 9 out of 10. I'm being serious. 9 out of 10, it doesn't ever get used. And that money just goes back into the pool for the following year because all of these organizations want to give it away. They want your son or daughter to play for free if you can't afford to play the tournament. Unfortunately, none of them are mind readers.
Yeah.
I understand. I don't want to use the embarrassing, but sometimes it's difficult to ask for money. Send an email. Send an email that explains your situation. And I will promise you, it will be so subtle, no one, even your child, won't know that they're playing for free. And I'm not even talking about discounted. You can play any event in this country, Roger, for free. You really can. We have America, USGA, AJGA, NB3, JGNC, Hurricane, all the way down to state level. You just have to ask. They all have funds because everybody at the end of the day really does want to grow the game. And finances should not ever be the reason that your son or daughter can't play.
No doubt, Ryan. I mean, we run into this all the time. It's actually even on the Junior Golf Hub, we have a resource center there that says, here's some, organizations that do support, and obviously all golf federations, every single international golf federation, every single USGA, obviously USGA has an organization funding. PGA of America, for example, does a great job of making sure all their sections and their junior tours and their junior organizations get supported. So you're absolutely right. There is, I mean, every tour out there has a mechanism in which they can help a player get out there and play. Youth on the Course, I mean, those guys have done a great job and now are supporting that.
Some are more intrusive than others. For example, at the Noda Begay, we don't ask any questions.
Yeah.
My philosophy, Roger, is if you want to take advantage of me and say that you need money when you really don't, then I'm the sucker. Oh, well.
Yeah.
We ask no questions other than you just say you would like it.
Yeah.
You say you like it, I'll give it to you every time.
Yeah.
I know there probably are some that it might be a little more extensive, the process to get approved, but I think most of them are probably like the Nota Begay, where you really just go to the info page and say, I'd like to play in this tournament. I don't have the finances for my son or daughter. Is there any way I can get some help? And you'll get an email back that day telling you that
There you
you
go.
can play for free.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, to your point, Ryan, most of these organizations, and I speak with the HAGA quite often. I mean, how often they go without giving away all the money that they've raised to do this, to support the junior golfers out there. So, the message to the parents is, don't be shy, don't be embarrassed. We all have been there. We know it is tough to ask for help at times. But for your kids' sake, do it, because there's a lot of us out there that want to help.
Now, I do want to ask this question in regards to the hub, because so many of our families on this podcast do have the swing coaches, Roger. They do have, they make it available for their son or daughter to be able to practice, and they have a swing coach. You brought up the mental part of it, and I see it every day. And that question that I wrote down from last week's podcast of the player that is shooting 18 shots different, like you said, that if everything's the same, that is not a technical thing, man. That is between the ears and needs to be addressed. And I think that's the last thing in junior golf that parents actually look into. So take a moment and inform me and everyone how we can use the hub to go about and sharpen our players' mental game. And then if they need even more mental coaching, but is there a first step that the hub can help with that?
Yeah, I mean, let me first and foremost say that everybody talks about the mental game, especially parents talk about the mental game very early in their junior development, right? Very few follow through, because I think very few realize what it entails. They'll continue working on the golf swing technique and not actually do the work that's necessary on the mental side. The Junior Golf Hub has provided a lot of information within its Essentials Guide to understand and deliver an assessment, a very quick assessment, to be able to give you some information that says, I probably want to have more of this. I want to learn more from this. Which then will take them to the Player Development Index website, which we do a mental assessment, which we're the only one in the industry, and to our knowledge, only one that does a mental assessment that for junior golfers, especially, to understand that it's about developing the mental skills. It's not just about developing, golf skill, mental golf skills, right? So it's a lot to it. It's a lot more to it than I think most people realize, because these are things that we get set in, let's call it, in our ways, if you will, if we just allow things to linger versus actually actively work on your mental skills, just like you work on your technical golf skills or you work on your physical skills. You have to work on your mental skills as well. Our clinical psychologists, myself, and a few others have developed our mental assessment. Dr. Brandt has done a wonderful job of being able to identify certain skills and certain mental traits that show up with the best players in the world, the best people in the world, the best people that rise to the top of their fields, and is able to now say, here's a recommendation to work on certain skills to get them there, right? So it's pretty significant, but it takes a lot of work, just like working on your golf swing. I know, again, everybody, wants to go to, I have to have this perfect golf swing. But as you can see on tour, it doesn't matter what tour it is in the world, they all do it slightly different, but they all do it the best they can, and they don't all win every week. So there are many, many factors to that, right? So, and I think by and large, the mental skill sets, the development of those mental skill sets is usually left to the last thing that they actually work on.
Yeah.
And it really should be integrated in all of what they're working on as a developing junior golfer, developing junior person, right? So if you want to be the best you can be, that's important.
Awesome. incredible, and certainly encourage everyone to go to the Junior Golf Hub, juniorgolfhub.com. Utilize all the tools that are available there. There are so many questions in junior golf, and there is one-stop shopping, juniorgolfhub.com, to handle all of your questions and, more importantly, your juniors' needs. We certainly thank Coach Dave Pezzino, the head coach at UConn. He's off to a great start. A lot of really interesting conversation there about finding the right school for your son and daughter that might not always be the biggest name. I think that is a massive thing we see in hey man, everybody has an ego, right? And the reality is, on when you pick your school, you want to say that you're going to the biggest school that you possibly can with the most tradition and history. Even if that's not the right fit, you just want to brag about it. Take your ego out of the way, make the decision based on what's the best fit for your son or daughter.
Yeah. And not only that, Ryan, I mean, think about what he said about, the junior, athlete in high school. It's not too late. I think we do tend to have this idea that if I don't get recruited or signed by my junior year in high school, or selected, when I'm in the sophomore, I mean, it's not too late, and there's many options. And quite frankly, so many more schools, just like Dave said, because of the transfer portal, there are there's more time for the young athlete to actually develop than they realize. So if parents can just pump the brakes on getting their kids signed off as early as possible, more options actually will present themselves the better you are.
Awesome. Thanks as always, Roger. Another great one. Hope we answered your questions. Keep the questions coming. Our producer and director, Michael Nick, will continue to pick the good ones out, and periodically we will continue to answer those questions and help you along on your path of junior golf. For Roger Nick, our director, producer, Michael Nick, I'm Ryan Burr, once again saying until next time, this has been the Hub of Junior Golf Podcast.